Let's hit this agenda check, Noah, because I have a lot for it, and we're going to hit on a lot of the same points, but I still like to do the agenda check just because I feel like it contextualizes a lot of what goes on in the aftermath of these games. Let's start with the obvious one, the biggest talking point that we have for this episode, the Paul Rothrock agenda. Noah, skyrocketed. Unreal.
Yeah.
Because like you said, and I said this at the top of the show too, but it was not just the goal. He had another play that was very similar to that should have been a goal. Like he really, it was honestly the agenda might have taken a hit if he hadn't scored the goal later in the game. If he had missed that big of a sitter, I might be sitting here singing a different tune, even though I don't really even think so though, because the rest of his game was so good. He won the free kick that Rusnak played in for the Morris goal. He did really great to get himself in position for the chance that he did miss. That's when you get yourself in those chances multiple times in a game with consistency. A lot of the times you are going to eventually score a goal. So the fact that he missed one, honestly, it actually strengthens the agenda, I think.
I agree.
Because I can't remember the last time I saw a Sounders attacker get that high percentage of an opportunity twice in one game, let alone score one. So the Paul Rothrock agenda, it's through the roof. I would say it's probably the hottest agenda of the season right now.
Yeah, it's the hottest it's ever been. And yeah, to add on to that, like missing that high percentage chance, but not even 15 minutes later, creating the same exact chance and burying it. That's been the problem with the Sounders that we keep talking about, is like the reason that this team looks so bad is not necessarily because the whole team is a failure or they're not generating chances. It's that they're just failing to finish the chances. And it's, Paul Rothrock, man, he finishes the chances that he gets. 1 for 2. I don't know. That's pretty good. Those are pretty good odds.
That's a good average. That's a great average.
I did want to read this little stat because I don't know. It's a little bit funny and silly, but this is goals per 90 for the Seattle Sounders. Who do you think the top 3 are? Who's number 1? Do you think?
Jordan?
No, Raul. But Jordan's there.
Okay.
Who's number 2? Who's number 2?
Jordan.
Nope. Paul Rothrock. Who's number 3?
Okay. Is it still not Jordan?
It's Jordan. Okay. But he's in the top 3 in goals per 90. So.
Right. Okay. See, which over a really small sample size, but to find out if that's real, you have to make it a bigger sample size.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the point.
Yeah.
The Obed Vargas agenda. Let's talk about this one.
Yeah.
We have a news item with this one, actually, which we haven't recorded since this dropped. But Obed actually filed a one-time FIFA-approved switch from representing the United States to Mexico. Obed is going to represent El Tri at the international level, which, I'm a USMNT fan. But if you listen to Obed talk about his motivation for this switch, which I wrote up a lot his quotes from that interview and posted him on you can read it on MLSsoccer.com. But Obed was brought up in El Tri fan. His dad actually did you know this? His dad played at the Liga MX Youth Academy for the team that Raul used to play for and won a couple of Liga MX Golden Boots for. So that's kind of a random connection. But so Obed's dad was a very good youth player, and as I understand it, didn't end up pursuing a professional career because he wanted to be more of a family man. And they ended up relocating to Anchorage, Alaska, where Obed was brought up, immersed in the game, but also as a diehard Mexico fan. That was the team that he loved, that he watched with his dad, that he wanted to play for, that he dreamed of playing for. And the way he described it, it was now that I have this opportunity to kind of live out this dream, it's just something he said. He literally used the phrase following my heart. So I can totally rock with that. That's a good decision for Obed, and I'm excited to see what he does for El Tri, because another thing he mentioned was that they're in the midst of a bit of a generational change on that team, and they need new young blood to take over, take the torch to the next generation. And it would be cool if Obed established himself as a player who can do that for them.
Yeah, no,
I fully support that.
I love it. I love that he switched, because at the end of the day, that is kind of the whole thing, right? You're representing the team that you feel the most connected to, that you feel the most allegiance to. And, he said that he didn't want to initially switch or commit to Mexico at the first because he came up in the U.S. He came up in the Sounders Academy. He came up in the U.S. soccer system, and they afforded him a lot of opportunity, and so he respected that and wanted to let that run its course. But it had kind of come to be the time where he needed to make a decision, and he literally said it had nothing more to do than with it, just what was in his heart, and I love that. But if you're gonna look at it from a tactical, I guess, standpoint, like, it's a great time to switch to Mexico because their team's kind of in shambles, and he's a great young player. They've had a kind of a failure to bring up young talent up into up into their national team. So this gives them an opportunity to completely change that narrative, and I don't know. I love it for him. And he was also asked, later in his career, would he want to go play in Mexico if that was ever like a part of his decision making? And he said it wasn't a part of his decision making, but if he were to, he would want to go play for the club that his dad played for, which I thought was really cool.
That would be cool for him. As for the how the agenda is doing, I mean, I think strengthened, and the reason I think so is that he was playing back in the double pivot in this game, which we had talked quite a bit about, Noah, how much more we liked what we were seeing from him playing higher up the field at that right mid spot. And I was kind of thinking of it before this game that I was kind of fully converted to the look of Christian back in the double pivot and Obed playing at right mid, and I was hoping they would keep doing that. But I think what he showed in this game is that he appears to be developing in a way where he can make a similar impact on the game and still make plays playing that deeper lying midfield spot, and you don't necessarily need him at right mid. So a double pivot of him and JP with Christian at right mid, if you want for a particular matchup, you want what Christian brings at that spot, and you can drop Obed back there. He can still make plays. He can still impact the game, and he was all over the highlight reel in this game. He created a couple of dangerous chances. He gets a secondary assist right on that goal, so he gets on the stat sheet again. I think the Obed agenda is as strong as ever and decently strengthened by this game.
Yeah, incredibly strengthened. It's still so obvious he has a stamp on every single game that he's been playing in. Like, he is involved in all of the final products that turn out well. I don't think this was his best game, but I still think that obviously he created the chance that led to a goal, so like you can't ding him for that. But I'm going to ask you this, Ari, and maybe some people won't like it. I'll give my take first, but do we think that Brian Schmetzer has done a good job developing Obed? I think giving him the confidence by putting him in an attacking position and allowing him to feel like he has way more freedom to move on the ball and give him the confidence to show that he can create these chances was a really good thing for his game.
That's actually a good point. That is good coaching by Schmetz to realize that he could be deployed there to positive effect. And like you said, having the confidence to keep running him out there and letting him develop new skills. I think you do have to credit Schmetz for that. Yeah. And I think Obed has become a lot more multifaceted because of that, or at least he's showing how multifaceted he really is in these last few weeks. And it was another standout game for him, even playing a different position again. The Leo Chu is terrible agenda. That's a big agenda. I think that agenda, it's weakened in this game just because that assist was so good. But I don't think one play you can necessarily say that, all right, Leo Chu is a hit again. He has to do it. He has to do it consistently. Like he can make it's frustrating to watch, which is why I bring it up, because you see you see those moments of brilliance, and you just wish that he could do that over the course of a season, which he has yet to do in his MLS career. And to be fair, he's been injured for a lot of this year, so he hasn't had as much of a chance to. But in the minutes that he played prior to that injury, I felt like it was pretty much going the same as it had been. But I will say, seeing him make a play like that, it gives some type of hope that he can maybe get on a good run of form and be a positive contributor to getting this team back up the table.
Yeah, I mean, we're still waiting for him to get over that hump that we talked about with, when a young player hits or doesn't hit, it's when they're meaningfully contributing statistically game in and game out. I don't want to be mean to the guy. Like, he got an assist, but the rest, like 98% of the game that he played, he was a ghost and he really wasn't involved. He had a really great first like 10 to 12 minutes, and then he was a ghost until he assisted that goal. And I also want to preface that by saying, like, he's coming off an injury. He's getting back the feeling on that. But I don't think that it's strengthened. I still don't think that it's diminished. But for me personally, the agenda has not moved. I still think it's questionable at best.
That's fair. What about the Stefan Frei's washed and Andy T should start agenda? You could speak better to that than I can, having watched the full game. But I mean, my at least perception of it is the defense played pretty well in this game. They kept a clean sheet, and I don't know how much Frei had to do or how much this agenda could be affected based on the chances that Minnesota United may or may not have generated. But I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, he did have one where the ball almost slipped out of his hands. And it was, which, like, whatever, he got it. It was clean. But yeah, he really wasn't tested that much. I'm not going to say that it's strengthened. I think Andy T would have also had a clean sheet. I think I could have stepped in there as goalkeeper and might have had a clean sheet. So the defense did a really great job. Shout out Yamar and Jackson Reagan. Both had really great games. Same with Nuhu. So, I guess Christian rolled on as well because he slid back in there as right back. So shout out to all of them. They honestly they strengthened the Frei agenda just based on the fact that he didn't have to do much. So
okay, interesting. How about your JP is cooked agenda? That was one that you had been toying with in the last few weeks, and we haven't even mentioned this yet. But I mean, JP easily had his best game of the season. I mean, if you just look at the stats, which I believe you have pulled up.
Yeah. Yeah, he did have.
He kind of went off. I mean, he was on the highlight reel quite a bit as well.
Yeah, he was. I mean, if you give a shit about stats or foot mob rating or anything, he was the player of the match easily. Statistically, he completed 89% of his passes. He had a .38 xG plus XA, so he was creating chances. 50% accurate crossing and accurate long balls. He was involved. He in the defense as well. Won all of his tackles. Had 12 recoveries and 11 defensive actions. So he was really all over the field. He was playing in some fucking beautiful passes too. I mean,
he was, yeah.
He and I will give him credit. He was the first one to say that this has not been his best season. He, in his press conference at training, I think it was last week, he said that like he personally took accountability and wanted to play better and that this hadn't been his best season. And I mean, I'm not saying I was a hater because we both really love JP when he's on, but he self-admittedly had not been playing well, and so the agenda was on, but he kind of cooked me. He kind of cooked me on the washed take.
Just listening to the breakdown of it all right now, Noah, like I feel like this could be the most significant development from this game out of any of them.
Yeah.
If this portends a run of form like this from JP moving forward, I mean, because you're right. Like, he hasn't been in his peak form this season, and I don't think he really has, frankly, since he got back from the ACL tear.
Yeah.
I honestly, this felt like a vintage JP game.
Yeah.
And, it can be easy to forget, but I mean, this was at one time one of the more like dominant midfielders in MLS in terms of the two-way impact that he can have on a game. JP is very much a player, in my opinion, that, I mean, he can flip games. He can get you points and get you results when maybe you shouldn't, just because of how versatile he is and just how many jobs he does at an elite level on the field when he's on his game. And I think the fact that he had not been performing at that level this season, like you said, self-admittedly, that's probably an under-talked about reason why this team has struggled as much as it has. I think particularly as it pertains to the attack, because this has been a pretty good to very good defense for a lot of this last year or so now that they've kind of been struggling, but it's just been an offense that's been lagging, and JP is such a key to that offense, and that's why when he was coming back from his injury earlier this season, I was pretty sure that was going to have a very pronounced positive impact because of all those things, but then he didn't really perform at the level needed to have that impact, but he did in this game, and if he does moving forward, I mean, I'm telling you guys, that probably as much as the number 9 debate or Paul Rothrock or anything else, JP becoming JP again, if that's the case, and he does that moving forward, that could be huge.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. We've been missing that leadership and that calm and that, that ability or that trust that you have the ability to turn games when you're on the back foot or you're on your heels. Like, that's been huge, One of the biggest things I think for me that I looked at this game was the 15 minutes after they scored. How did they look 15 minutes after they scored a goal? Because they've looked atrocious every single time, no matter home or away, 15 minutes after they score a goal. And they were doing well to absorb the pressure that came immediately, and then they would try and retain their possession. They would do what the Sounders have been known to do. Yeah. And I don't want to say that like everything has changed in the matter of one game, but it definitely looked like if this is the core that you have, if this is the players that you have and want to be competitive with this team, that's exactly how you have to play every single game. They at least are clearly able to go out and execute that. Let's hope over the next month to 2 months they can keep that up.
Yeah, and it should be noted, Minnesota United was not even close to full strength for this game. They had a lot of guys missing. But, I don't bring that up to take much away from the result, because the thing is, like, when you have an undermanned opponent that's playing in your building and you have them in a situation where you're playing them at less than full strength, your job is to go soundly dispatch of them and not leave anything, not let anything crazy happen, not give them any signs of life, not let them in the game, not let them have long periods of the game where they're controlling the game and on the front foot and generating chances. And that's something that Seattle has struggled with at home this season. I mean, they have 5 draws at home this season. So
this is their second home win.
They did exactly what you're supposed to do and what you have to do against an undermanned opponent, which is take an easy and comfortable victory where you more or less dominate. Last one for the agenda check for the week, though, I got the anti-Rusnak agenda, which I mean that's been permeating agenda among a lot of facets of the fan base for a lot of this season, and he got a really nice assist in this game. I can't speak as well to how well he played other than that, so maybe you can give some thoughts there. Mm-hmm. But overall, I was thinking to myself, just watching that free kick, that looked like one of the kind of vintage Rusnak RSL era, just pinpoint free kicks where he put that one right on the money. So you at least have to give that to him. Yeah, but I don't think the agenda is going to change in many people's eyes that much based off of that. But that's the type of play that you need your DP10 to be making. So I guess it was nice to see him make it this week. Yeah, no,
I mean, I think our view on the agenda has generally always been that it comes down to the contract that he's on. Is he performing at a DP level? I still don't think so. He had a couple chances. He had a really nice shot on target that he probably should have buried. But, what are you going to do? They won. I don't think that he was a game breaker or a game changer. Like, his cross was really nice. Really nice. But that's bare minimum. You got to get that ball in there. Jordan did the work to get up above his man and finish that. I'll give credit to him there, but I don't think it's diminished or strengthened. I just think that, like, the problem, again, is not that he is a bad player. The problem is that for what he is and what he is paid, he is not
producing.
He's not producing at the clip. And I like the guy, but I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.